And this is maybe a little bit confusing to people at first. However, if you know that, if you realize that, or recognize or take responsibility for being different from others, even as an enlightened being, then, and yet you know that on some other level you are one with them, and you identify with them, therefore you can identify with them, then you can be your separate self in a more creative way. So the oneness insight is very, very important on the ultimate level. That is the case. The enlightened being feels all other beings as their very body, and also inanimate objects, also the world and plants and buildings and stars and everything. But then everything doesn't just collapse into that. In addition, that being is a being who has experienced that as a separate continuum of a being, which becomes very, very vast, of course, at that point, capable of, in a way, infinite expansion, and yet still making a contribution to those others who are still there, and they don't know the oneness, and they are freaking out, and they are suffering. We are interconnected with everything, and the planet is interconnected with everything. And the planet is here because our minds are keeping it here, and the minds of the gods are keeping it here. The minds of the demons are keeping it here. The minds of the animals are keeping it here. The insects. It is a platform for us to engage in with each other. If you perceived all beings as yourself, without them disappearing and you disappearing, so that you are still the being that was the home of the consciousness that expanded then to identify with everyone, empathically, then you would not be able to avoid the fact that they subjectively do not feel they are one with you. And their feeling of being separate from everybody else in the universe makes them paranoid and makes them fight against the universe and fills them with desire to incorporate and consume more of the universe to sort of make the thing on their side bigger, to confront this hopelessly large thing, the universe, and at the same time to wish to ward off the universe and angrily and with fear and hatred and anger. And so you feel that in them because you're one with every aspect of them, and that is an aspect of the unenlightened person. Now, if you feel that, then the first thing you might feel like doing is somehow surge from your blissful energy of feeling we're one with everything, and therefore nothing threatening you, and somehow blow them up with that awareness from inside. And yet, their continuum then would suddenly feel pressured from inside, from outside. It's like giving a paranoiac a big hug. If you rush at a big paranoiac to give them a big hug, they will perceive a big monster coming to like crush them in a cage match like World Wrestling Federation or something and beat them up. They will recoil and want to assert their independence from this big hug that's coming. Do you follow me? Or if you were to like somehow put some pressure of blissful energy from within them, they would feel that the alien was trying to take rebirth out from inside of them or something. They were going to explode. And so you can't do that. They have to open their minds and their hearts themselves. And the only way they can do that is to understand that it is safe to do so, and to understand the nature of reality. If you see the beautiful rose in the rose bush seed or sprout, you can't go and take the sprout and rip it up into a rose bush. You would simply destroy it if you pulled it too hard. So you have to let it grow and cultivate it, and then give it the optimal environment in which to grow and to blossom. And so that's the hardship of Buddhas, who have no hardship, of course, because finally time to them is not a reality, it's not a rigid reality, it is just a convention, and therefore they can see the future rose, and they're not impatient about it, seeing it grow. And they don't feel they're abandoning it because it just hasn't reached its blossoming right away. The future moment of its blossoming which they are working toward, the best they can do, seems to be immediate to them, because the future and present and past are all immediate to an enlightened being. So enlightenment is also endarkenment. It is not just yang, it's yin and yang in union. And actually, we say in the Buddhist tradition, we call it clear light, prabhasvara, which means not a bright light. It's different from sunlight and moonlight and brilliant darkness. It incorporates both, and it's like a transparency and a kind of gray light that has no shadow, because everything is filled with that light. Light shines on things, and then not things that are shielded from the shining are in shadow. So it has an opposite of dark. But enlightenment light is the clear light of the void, it's called, which is transparency of everything, and no shadow, and no brightness, therefore, in a sense, opposite of darkness, including both brightness and darkness. So, and every being has that. And beings actually are made of that. Beings are all made of light. You're like the one in the Matrix when Neo became the one. You realize you are one with the entire program, so to speak. And the program is pure energy, and it's energy that's so great, but that's only an analogy too, because the energy is so great of reality that nothing has to be done with anything. Everything is completely fine in its own sort of subatomic level, because there's infinite blissful energy in everything.
And projecting for the December 21st, my proposal, like I say, is to all of us agree that superstition, the fanaticism, all that dogmatism need to be over and return more and more to the truth as we can. Because what is an emergency, perhaps, is to change our world, to change our mind, and not keep believing any longer about Freud and whatever was 100 years ago, because the reality is so different right now. Then if I want to talk about Toltec prophecies, I don't think that none of them ever imagined what is happening right now in humanity. It was like I tried to reach a star. It's completely out of the imagination. There was no way. Everything is so simple and so logical that we don't need to create any kind of prophecies. If we see how humanity evolves, it's easy to see what will happen, because everything works as an action-reaction. It's a binary system, 1 and 0, and that can change at any time. And by changing, it creates all these different shapes, all the different forms. But it's always shifting. It's how life expresses itself in the entire creation. It's only one being that exists and is alive, and is made by billions of universes, all the different sizes, and universes within universes. And everything works in perfect harmony. Then everything that is created will dissipate sooner or later. But what made possible the creation is eternal. It never ends. All humanity together is one living being. All humans, men, women, we are humanity, a whole universe. But at the same time, the whole humanity is just an organ of a bigger living being, which is the planet Earth. But it's not the only organ. The atmosphere is another organ. The forest is another organ. The ocean is another organ. Then if we use our imagination, we can see that everything that exists, every single universe, is a point of perception. And that goes to the entire creation. But you can divide also that creation in what create and the creation. What create is a force that we may call life. And the first creation of that life is light itself. And it looks like light is really a living being, is alive by itself, is a whole universe that covers everything. And from that point, light really creates the rest of the creation. And if we see light as a living being, we see that light have temperature, have a very powerful memory, have extreme, intense intelligence, is created everything. Then light is really what we call the messenger of life. All the information of everything that exists is in light. Then light is really the first creation. And that force is what, if we want to, we can call it God. I love to call it the truth. Either way, it's just a word. Because even if we understand or not, if we know or we don't know, it exists. It doesn't need to prove that it exists. Love is contagious, as fear is contagious. Truth could be contagious as lies are extremely contagious. Then all the drama that exists in the entire humanity is because we believe in lies. Then we create those dramas. Because life is extremely easy. We are the ones who make it difficult. The real conflict that exists in the human mind is not between good and evil. It's between the truth and lies. And the consequences are good and evil. When you confront your fears and you find out that they're not true, then the power that you use in order to create it, it will return to you, and that makes your will even stronger than before. Until finally, in a certain point of your life, you are no longer thinking unless you want to think. Because you find out that you really don't need to think if you are perceiving. That you find out that your knowledge doesn't need to justify what we perceive. But instead of justify it, we can enjoy what we perceive. And that goes in all the different directions of perception that we humans have. Well, love is just a word. And it's another way to say God or to say truth. Of course, love always exists. And we always perceive love. And we perceive love because we are love. Real love really exists. but not the way we know it. Love, real love, is unconditional. It's the truth. And that truth sets you free. Free to be what you really are, which means free to be loved.
Regarding 2012, there is a sense of fear that the world is going to end, everything is going to be destroyed. I tell you, none of that is going to happen. Of course, people are going to wake up from slumber, and that's already happening. According to the Hindu calendar, 2012 is called the year of Nanda. Nanda is bliss of the being. So, naturally, as the name goes, people would seek more spiritual solace and spiritual upliftment. You know, every crisis shakes you up and wakes you up. Otherwise, we carry on our life in a set routine, not even thinking about the life or what is the ultimate truth and what's real, what's unreal, what we want, what we don't want. These questions don't rise in at all. So, crisis situation just shakes us away from the slumber of routine and makes us think, where am I going? What do I want? What's the ultimate reality? So we need to use that. So see life from a broader context. And that is what the goal of human life is, our purpose of all the spiritual practice. To move from the limited I, small ego, to the universal I, where you include everyone as part of yourself. If you can maintain the innocence which you are born with and still communicate with the whole world and still grow up in life, then that is a transformed ego. And ego says, okay, this is me and that is not mine. But when the sense of belongingness grows in life and you feel the entire human race belongs to you, the entire planet is part of you, then that ego is a transformed ego. Ego is not active when it comes to sense of belongingness. It becomes much more predominant, aggressive when there is lack of sense of belongingness or outside the purview of belongingness. You know, often people try to fight with the mind to reach the higher self. I say, don't fight, just enjoy its games, its gimmicks. It's like having a kid who is very naughty. When you know you are bigger than the kid, and a kid is naughty, you are in control though. So you enjoy, right? You are not fighting with it, but skillfully you move through it. There is a saying in ancient texts that a fish is